Oh, good day everyone. I'm back again. The title of today's video is going to be a bit of a strange one. It sounds like a conundrum, but it's not. The title is when too late, when too late is still too early. Now you're thinking, how can someone be too late but still be too early? That's not possible. It could be the other way around. You could be too early, but you're still too late. But there's no way in the world that you can be too late but too early. Well, in my case, that's correct. And I'm going to explain to you why. Now, yesterday, as some of you may be aware if you're watching my previous video, I went for a hair transplant consultation with a doctor nearby in my city. And he basically gave me the consultation. He looked at my current situation. He found out my history, who I had it done with in the past. He saw the FUT hair transplant scars on the back of my head. He examined my donor area and he looked at my scalp. He looked at the quality of the hair on my head. He said everything's well and good. He says it's not the thickest anymore, but it will still be thick enough to do transplanting. I said, well, that's good. He said, yes. The other thing is, he told me that the donor area, the FUT, where the scarring was from the FUT donor area, there's a lot less now. So obviously because there's a scar there and there was previous graft taken out from there in strips, he told me that area is not the most, it's still got a fair bit, but not enough to cover my full head. He says, I'd also go in around your temples, around the side a bit, but at the end of that, he said, we're probably only going to get out about 1,500 to about, at a stretch, 1,700 grafts. And he says, because you're a full, your balding went all the way back beyond the crown, like the maximum it could go for a man. So it's basically the end of the Norwood scale. He says it's not going to be possible with your donor areas and your current situation with how you look to fill the whole scalp. He told me that straight away. I said, thank you for letting me know that. Then he basically showed me what the options were. So I'm going to walk around. I've done some diagrams. I'm going to walk around and show you guys what was offered to me and the cost. So just bear with me. Okay, I've got some pictures lined up there for later in the video. So currently, this is what my situation is. I've got the hair around the sides, the hair down the back. This is a top-down view of my scalp. Basically, the balding is just a bit back beyond the crown. It's pretty much the full way a man can go. Now, you can see that I've written drawn those arrows and written the words gap there, gap, gap, because that is a gap in the hairline. There is nothing there. It goes straight from the front, about the front, where the temples go back. There is a gap. There's no hair. Those little dots at the front there is what was done when I was 19 in 1993. So that's the old grafting. So when you look at me front on, that will stick up. They just stick right up, and then the sides go round when I grow my hair out. That's why I basically keep it shaved now as much as I can, because that is basically what I look like from the front. So there's tufts of hair. I'm sure you've seen my pictures. There's tufts of hair at the front. They're not thin, but they're definitely not thickened enough. And I've lost some over the years. It's lost a bit of its thickness, but even then, it wasn't the best look. There are now gaps that have developed where some shedding took place, and also non-filled areas. So that's a little gap. As I used to say, there's these two little gaps between the transplanted hair, what sticks up, and the real hair down, and the actual hair, the hair that I never touched down the sides and around the back there. So that is basically what I look like from above down and from front on. Now, what he said your donor area can offer, which was about he said 1,500 to 1,700, around that mark at a stretch. He said, this is what you will get. And the cost. So the cost, as you can see there, is 10,000 Australian dollars. So those circles, so that, as you can see, that diagram sits there with the gap, the transplanted hair at the front, what's left of it from when I was 19, and all the hair still around the sides. He said, what I plan to do is thicken that area back up, go into those gaps, put hair in those gaps, and then basically fill it to as much as I can with the amount of grafts I get, which he presumes about 15 to 1700. We'll go back about, he said, probably to the second line, at a stretch the third line. He said the third line is possible, and it will give you a more natural look because it will look like there's still like balding from the crown backwards, but it didn't go all the way. It'll look a lot more natural than what you currently got. He said, and that in itself, that would be the extent of what's left on your scalp in terms of donor versus area we can fill. So as you can see, it's only probably going to be about maximum a 40% frontal scalp fill. So about 60% at the back will still be bald. And all that is set to cost me $10,000 Australian. Does this sound good to me for $10,000? Well, in short, the answer is no, because I don't want to be bald anymore. I've known bald since I was, I've known balding since I was, miniaturization of hair since about 15. Balding started at around that age, 15, 16. Totally gone by about 19, 20 when I had those 3 transplants. So yeah, I don't think that's worth $10,000. I don't know what you guys think, or you people think who are watching this video, but to me that would be money down the drain. You're better off just keeping on shaving it and showing those scars. So basically the alternatives I've had, I would have, so hair transplanting is probably now out for me. So the only alternatives I've got is wearing a full head hair system to get hair, or getting a scalp micropigmentation, SMP, or a hair tattoo. Hair tattoo will be painful and I may need to go in and get it redone every year or two, as the colour fades. It's so on and so forth. So yeah, I think those are pretty much the only 2 options I'm left with. The transplant, that's all I'll get out of it for 10,000. That's pretty much that. He reckons it's all in. The doctor says is all that's left for my donation, for my donor. Maximum coverage, 40% back at a stretch, probably more like 35 to 40% in reality. Thickening up of the front part, covering those gaps, and going back a little bit more than what I've currently got it. Is that a good option for me for 10,000 Australian? I think that will be money down the drain unless I get a full replacement of hair. So yes, I don't think I'm going to be going ahead with this. I'm quite sure of it. Now, when I was at the doctor's consultation, I didn't only show him the current situation and talk about my history with the hair transplants. I basically showed him my history through when I took these photos in. So I showed him from 15 to 18, and I wanted to get his opinion on whether what I did initially was the right choice and was the right thing to do. So here are the pictures I showed him, and I think I might have shown these on a previous video. Sorry if they're being rehashed and you've seen them before, but I'm going to show you again. I'm going to go through in detail. I'm then going to tell you what he said, what the doctor said, and just be a cautionary tale to anyone who is balding and going bald at a very early age. This is what he told me. Okay, so we're going to go through these pictures now. So 15. You can see that was year 10 in high school. So you can see on my scalp and the frontal part of my scalp there, even back to the middle, the thinning hairs on top. So that is miniaturization. That is the start of the miniaturization process at 15. This hair around here at the front, and that on the top there, you can see it's thinning. It's not really thick. That is the first signs of baldness or hair miniaturization. Okay, so that was 15. I don't have a 16 photo right now. I've got the photo when I was 17. So you can see it was pretty slow at that stage, but you can see at the front there, that's kind of going to a Norwood 2 from that's probably that's a stage of a Norwood 2. That's past miniaturization, that's loss. So that was my final year in high school. That was my graduation night from high school. I've got the coverings on the side. That's my parents' photos. I don't want to show them on this video, but that's me in the middle, and you can see I think I've shown one from my last year in school as well previously. I don't have that with me at the moment, that photo, but this is the same year. So you can see that, yeah, I mean, here at the front part, that's starting to go Norwood 2. So in your last year of school at a Norwood 2, you're 15, 16, 17. Yes, that's 17, and it's miniaturization up the top there, but it's Norwooding from the front. Now let's go to the next year, 18, and I think you might have seen these pictures before as well. One of them you mightn't have seen, but the other one you might have seen. So this one you probably haven't seen. This is 18. Cooking the pasta there, yes. That was 17. Get that back in focus. There we go. That was 17. And I cut it short at 18, and that's what it looked like. So 18, that's beyond Norwood 2 now. That's gone to Norwood 3, heading towards Norwood 4. Well, it's definitely Norwood 2. It's beyond Norwood 2. Getting that back in focus. Yeah, that's well beyond Norwood 2, I would imagine. That's Norwood 3 territory. The other one you've probably seen is 18. It was probably in the same time when I had my hair cut short. So yeah, you can see, and that's not a clear picture, but you can see the density completely gone at 18. Just a ring at the back where it was going to drop further down these sides here and really just go from the middle down to the crown. So yeah, I mean, that is the history I showed him. I took these photos in, and he told me this. He said, turn away from these photos. He said this. He said, when you did yours at 19, it was probably too late. He said, although it seems like it's early to get a hair transplant, and it is, it's very premature getting a hair transplant at 19. Not many men would do it. He said, but by that stage, you were probably beyond hair transplant territory. He said, looking at those pictures, he said, I would have gone for the hair transplant the right time in terms of the hair loss, not the age, in terms of the hair loss amount. He said, you should have got it done when you were probably 16 or 17 maximum. I said, really? He said, yes. Because he said, when you see the first signs of the hair loss is when you need to go in and get that treated. So I told him I was on minoxidil in high school during those years, and there was no finasteride, there was none of that stuff on the market. He said, yes, I'm aware of that. Back in those years, there wouldn't have been. He said, basically, your only bet at that stage would have been if the minoxidil didn't work and what they put you on in terms of vitamins and tablets didn't work. He said the only thing that would be available to you at that stage would have been a hairpiece or a hair transplant. He said, I don't even think tattooing was available back then for the head. So he basically said, yeah, and he said, yes, it was too late when I did it at 19. He said it would have already been too far gone. They would have tried to, they're basically putting in a little bit and you're losing more. They're putting in a little bit, you're losing more. He said it was too late by then. He said it needed to have been stabilised by 16, maximum 17, not in terms of an age, but in terms of the amount of hair that was lost or getting lost at the time. He said, so he basically when you think about it, he said, I said, so you're basically telling me too late was still too early? He said, exactly. He said at 16 or 17, you're still in the couple of last years of high school. He said, you can't go out of high school and get hair transplants. It's just not going to happen. He said, your choices basically were few. He said, and you caught it too late. He says, you're probably better off not doing it to begin with. It was too late. He said you should have gone the either other route, which basically means I should have got that the hairpiece, or I should have just let it go, which would have been tragic had I just let it go. So when too late is still too early. Well, when you are prematurely bald and you get your transplant at 19, which is too late. Too late. Yes, it's too late according to your hair loss pattern, but it's still too early in life to be doing something as risky as this. Now, I've got a part 2 to this, and it's going to be 2 reaction videos in one. But this time, these reaction videos are going to be extra special. And it's going to be the final reaction I do on this topic about my hair loss and my situation. But these are going to be absolute doozies, these 2, because the reaction videos I'm doing are to a doctor, the same doctor who did my hair transplanting back in 1993. Yes, he's got videos on YouTube. He's the same hair transplanting doctor who did plastic surgeon / hair transplanting doctor that did my 3 hair transplants back in 1993. He's got videos, and I'm going to review 2 of them about age appropriateness and what young men go through when they start going bald prematurely. He's even got examples, and I think he might have been thinking of me in 1 or 2 of the examples. I don't know. But, all I'll say is he looks a lot older than he used to. When I saw him, he was in his 40s. I think when I saw him, 30s, late 30s or 40s when I had his hair transplants. Apparently he still practices the old FUT method, according to the clinic I was at yesterday, who do FUE. They said, oh yeah, they know the doctor, he's still around. He was one of the top doctors back then in my city for hair transplanting back in the day. I had no other option. The reception girl or the nurse, she told me, yes, he still does hair transplants, and he still uses those old FUT methods, the old strip methods. So I looked him up, and it led me to 2 of these videos online that I'm going to review next. And these 2 videos will be the last 2 videos I do on this subject about hair transplanting and my hair loss journey prematurely and the transplants I got. The next 2 videos are going to be absolutely brilliant because I know the man personally. He did my hair transplants, and I'm going to do reaction videos or review videos on what he was saying. And I will say this, I mostly tend to agree with what he says now. And after that, I also want to do a video somewhere down the track, not long after that, about how a girl who herself suffered from eyebrow alopecia, she has no eyebrows, dated me and basically overlooked me at the end of the day for IVF single motherhood. She would rather have had an IVF single motherhood than choose me as a partner in life after I dated her. This was about 15, 16 years ago when I got introduced to her, and it was a blind date and didn't know what I was getting into. She's quite an attractive girl when she's got those eyebrows tattooed on. She's quite attractive. But you know that when single women are choosing IVF babies ahead of a bloke as a partner, and they've been on dates with blokes that weren't enough, you know that you are cooked. So I will leave it there. Thanks for watching, and wait for the next part 2 of this. When too late is still too early, there'll be a part 2, which is those review videos, reaction videos, and then I'll be on to the other video. I shall see you later. Have a great day. Thank you.